Hello, first graders. This is Mrs. Holly, and we're going to do this video a little bit different, so you'll have to be patient with me. But I wanted to show you something a little bit different as well. So we have been studying the author, Audrey Wood, and here is her picture with her husband, Don, because as we've been talking about, Don is the illustrator for most of Audrey's books. And this book we read, King Bidgood's in the Bathtub. The story was by Audrey Wood, and it was illustrated by her husband, Don, and received that great award because he has such great pictures that help Audrey tell the story. Well, like most authors, Audrey and Don, being her husband as well, have a website. So we're going to try and go to that website, and hopefully this will work. So I'm going to present to you so that you can see my screen. And hold on a minute, we're going to do the entire thing instead of a window. I'll share it to you, and then you'll be able to see where I go, and hopefully you will be able to do that at home and go in and see some of the great things that Audrey and Don have done to their website. There you go. And now let's go up to Audrey and Don's website. This is the home page. You only get to see half of the legs sticking down from the tree. But as you can see, you can follow my little pointer here. It's called Audrey Wood Clubhouse. And they are featuring a new book that they've written called The Full Moon at the Napping House. And inside this, it talks about how they took one of their earlier books and made a sequel. So the first book is called The Napping House, and it was yellow, and you'll be able to see it a little bit later in the story because it's pictured here in this second story. But The Napping House talks about this same granny who is reading her grandson here a story, and they fall asleep. So first the granny falls asleep on the bed, and then the grandson falls asleep on top of the granny in the bed, and then the dog falls asleep on top of the boy who's on top of the granny, and then the cat starts snoozing and goes to sleep on the dog who's on the boy who's on the granny, and then the mouse is on top of the cat, on top of the dog, on top of the boy, on top of the granny, and then a little tiny flea gets on top of the mouse and bites the mouse just a little bit, just enough to disturb him, which disturbs the cat, which disturbs the dog, and it rustles up the boy, and the boy disturbs the grandma. And then they all wake up and they're all flying around the room and settle back down in to read the story again as they are all awake. Well, this one is the full moon, meaning that it happens at night. The other one was during the day. So let's listen to Don and Audrey Wood talk about this new book that they're going to be reading. Here's a video of them.
I'm Audrey Wood, the author of The Napping House.
And I'm Don Wood, the illustrator of The Napping House.
The inspiration for The Napping House came from a life experience that I had. When our son was 3 years old, he couldn't sleep. So I'd take him around the corner to his granny's house, and he'd cuddle up in a big cozy bed with her snoozing cat and her dozing dog. And pretty soon they'd all just be snoring away.
And it wasn't long, of course, with that pattern before Granny's house became known as the Napping House.
When
Hold on, we'll be patient here. Hopefully it'll start again.
Don and I moved from the Napping House to Hawaii, we discovered the full moon. In fact, we would sit out on our porch during the full moon and watch it just pop up right out of the ocean. It was very exciting. And it was so exciting, in fact, that it kept me from going to sleep. So I had this tradition of taking our dog Misha outside at night and we'd walk around. And once outside, I realized that I was not the only restless creature on the property. Our hens were out there pecking around on the ground. Our 2 pet goats were frisking around, and even our geese, which are very calm usually, were honking and flying about. And this got me to wondering, well, what would it be like to write a story about the full moon at the napping house?
So what's the difference? The difference is they're exactly opposite. In the original Napping House, it's daytime. I illustrated it in daytime. And all of the characters are cozy and sleepy and having a wonderful nap until they're rudely interrupted by a wakeful flea. In the companion book, Full Moon at the Napping House, the full moon has made everyone restless and wakeful until a surprise guest turns up and soothes them all.
We had so much fun doing the full moon at the napping house. We hope you have a lot of fun sharing it too.
Okay, now there's something else that you should know about Dawn and Audrey. And up here along the top, there's different things you can go to about Audrey, Dawn, Bruce, their son. We're going to talk about him a little bit later. Here's all the books they've written. They've got some activities that you could do. But right under this one, secrets. We're going to go down to the Napping House Secrets to see something you should know. This here is a picture of their house, their real house in real life. Well, before they moved to Hawaii anyway. And this here is a picture of the house in the book that he wrote about. Don't they look very much the same? Yes, authors and illustrators get their ideas from part of what's their real life. So they start out with a house like this, and then they made it the napping house, like they were talking about their real granny and their son who had the napping experiences. Also, here's their dog Duffy, and they have a book about their dog Duffy. And a lot of the pictures in that book look like this dog, Duffy, as well as the cat. And the snoozing cat in the picture also looks like this real life cat that they had. And the costumes on these people look like a couple of characters that they have in some of their books. So good authors and illustrators starts with experiences from real life, and then they add things to them that makes them a fiction story. But it makes it a great story, all starting with what they know from real life. So now let's see if I can get back out of this. We'll go back to our meeting and stop presenting. And I will show you the book that I have of the full moon at the napping house. And there they are. This is the one that's done at night, the second one, the sequel, written by Audrey Wood and illustrated by Dawn Wood. I'll get it close as I can. There is a house, a full moon house, where everyone is restless. And in that house, there is a bed, a wide awake bed, in a full moon house where everyone is restless. And in that bed, there is a granny, a sleepless granny, in a wide awake bed, in a full moon house where everyone is restless. And with that granny, there is a child, a fidgety child with a sleepless granny in a wide awake bed in a full moon house where everyone is restless. And with that child, there is a dog, a playful dog with a fidgety child with a sleepless granny in a wide awake bed in a full moon house where everyone is restless. Look at her eyes. She is restless. And with that dog, there is a cat, a prowling cat with a playful dog, with a fidgety child, with a sleepless granny, in a wide-awake bed, in a full moon house, where everyone is restless. And with that cat there is a mouse, a worried mouse, with a prowling cat, with a playful dog, with a fidgety child, with a sleepless granny, in a wide-awake bed, in a full moon house, where everyone is restless. Until it's going to change, something's going to happen. A chirping cricket sings his song to the worried mouse, to the prowling cat, and the playful dog, and the fidgety child, and the sleepless granny, in a wide-awake bed, in a full moon house, where everyone is restless. A full moon song that soothes the mouse, calms the cat, who gentles the dog, who snuggles the boy, who hugs the granny, in the dreamy bed, in the full moon house, where no one now is restless. It ended all calm in that house that looked very much like their own. But the characters, it could have happened almost any day. But Audrey used her imagination and came up with some wonderful, juicy words. Not very many words, but it made a great story. I hope you enjoyed it.